Welcome to the Vision Profiles podcast. Join us, two dedicated Apple Vision Pro users, as we dive into everything from hardware and software to apps and the latest updates in the world of Apple Vision Pro. I'm Marty Gensius, a faculty member at Kent State University, podcaster, and avid Apple product fan.
And I'm Eric Bolden. I work in IT, but my interest is in finding interesting ways to share content, currently photography of plants and birds and panoramic sequences.
Okay, so today's episode, we're going to cover some Vision Pro news. I never know how long these segments are going to go on the news. It kind of depends on if we go down a rabbit hole on a few things. And then a couple of great apps. But last week was the Glow Time event. And it's the iPhone event and also a new Apple Watch. And so I'm curious because I think we've talked before about what we were planning on getting. And so I'm curious about if you ordered and how the order process went for you.
Well, I went through the early pre-order process so that I would be ready for Friday to be able to just click a button, and then didn't click a button. And for two reasons. I'm fairly certain which model I want, but not 100% certain.
Wow.
And it sounded like the non-pro version of the phones was selling significantly better than expected. So there might actually end up being a bit of a shortage of those. But the pro version, they made extra to be ready, and then it didn't sound like people were buying as many of those. So I am not feeling pressured to get something instantly for fear of not being able to get something for several months.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take that time to, as soon as they come out, go into an Apple store and try out the different models. And the thing that I'm interested in is spatial photos to see kind of what the resolution and the images look like, and see if there's any difference between the pro and the non-pro cameras. And if there's any difference in, the resolution between what was on the 15 and what's now on the 16, because on the 15 you could do spatial video, but you couldn't do spatial stills.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that was just a difference in resolution, because you could do spatial stills in the Apple Vision Pro headset, but not from the phone.
Right.
And so I want to try it with the different models and see what the deal is, what the differences are. And at that point, then I'll get a 16 Pro Max. I don't care what color. I have Ace already.
Okay, so you've kind of decided on a 16 Pro Max, but you're going to go into the store to kind of check out the difference between the Pro and the Pro Max.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
and the reasoning is I'm picking up a phone for somebody else, and I don't know if they need a Pro or they don't need a Pro, but I want them to be able to take pictures and send me pictures. And I want spatial stills as well as panoramic. And if the non-pro phone does that, then I'll probably look at that. If it doesn't, then I'll get a separate Pro.
That's very nice of you, Eric. So the phone you're going to pick up from me, no,
Nice
you're picking it up. Nice try. I know. Since you're giving,
I'll pick it up and I'll say, for Marty. Okay. Yeah.
So watch, did you do anything with the watch?
No.
Okay.
Now, what I was going to say, have you sold yours yet?
Well, here's what's going on. Which one are you asking me if I sold? The Ultra?
The Ultra.
I'm keeping the Ultra.
Because it sounded like you had an Ultra with an O2 sensor, and that's hard to get.
Yeah, I'm not selling it. That affected the whole setup process for me. So
okay,
I'm doing the 512 black, titanium black, a Pro Max 16.
Oh,
And I'd attempted to load it a 1 terabyte because you had kind of made me think maybe I need to go terabyte. But I figure within a year, if I need a terabyte, I'll be getting the
this is
17 with
glitch.
the terabyte. So
Yeah.
I really, I really didn't use a lot of the space on my current phone. So I figured I would be safe going to 15 or going to a 512. But I had loaded like in my bag, my shopping bag, a bunch of terabyte ones because I kept trying to add it and it didn't look like it added. So I went back and did the setup again and added it and added it. And then
Oh,
like a couple hours later, I went back and saw that I had 5 phones in my query. So then I had
well,
to go
thank you.
through, I had to go through and delete those, which was kind of problematic. And when I learned the oxygen sensor issue with the Ultra, I said, I'm not going to turn the Ultra in for a 10. I'm not going to then sell my Series 9 on the market. Instead, I'm going to keep the Ultra and I'm going to use the Series 9 to defray the cost of the 10. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm getting rid of my Series 9, keeping my Ultra, and getting the 10 in titanium, a nice shiny hard shell titanium instead
Mm.
of the aluminum. And the titanium versions only come with GPS and cellular. They don't come with GPS or cellular, whereas
Oh,
the aluminum ones
okay.
give you those choices. So I'm getting
Mm.
the cellular by default on the 10. So that's the watch um, and the phone combination that I'll be doing. One of the problems I ran into was when I then canceled my watch, my 10, because I couldn't take the the trade-in of the Ultra off of it. So I had to cancel the whole thing and then wound up adding it again, not a problem, and also adding in the Series 9 as my trade-in. I couldn't get it at the same location where my phone was at.
Oh,
So we have two Apple stores. They're both about 35 minutes away. They're not super convenient, but it's a ride over and a ride back. So in the morning, I'm going to get the phone and a set of 4 headsets because I'm curious, or earpods, because
okay.
I'm curious about the noise cancellation on those. And then in the evening, I'm driving up to Eaton Place and getting the watch and a watch band there.
Mm.
So 2 different locations, 2 different times of the day. I blocked it out on my calendar. Nobody can have an appointment with me then. That's my me time. So we'll catch up more on this, but I think the things that we want to remind listeners about is the regular iPhone 16 can capture 3D spatial videos and 3D spatial stills.
Bills.
And that's exciting, I think, for you. Previously only limited to the iPro, the 15 Pro only, the videos. You couldn't do the stills.
Right.
Um,
And given
and
how
yeah,
much
good.
you like with your still images, making them 3D, and
Hmm.
how, that being able to take an original, you know, um, spatial still, I think you might find that a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I have to get out to places that are dimensional. In offices and stuff,
Yeah.
there's not much that shows that very well. The other thing is spatial audio recording on the iPhone 16 Pro only, which is a nice added piece if you're in a room shooting spatial photography, a kid's birthday party, and there are people in the back singing, happy birthday or something like that. If you use that video, put it into Vision Pro, and are able to show it, you'll get the effect of the spatial audio. So you're looking at them blowing out the candles and you're hearing
Oh,
people behind you sing happy birthday. So that seems like a pretty cool concept and adds to the whole idea of an AR virtual reality kind of headset, spatial
oh,
computing, I should say.
hmm. Yeah, I guess I hadn't realized that that was only on the Pro only. That might make a
Yeah,
difference. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So you could have ordered it right out of the box, but if you knew that. Cletus has joined us. Hey, it's good to see you, Cletus. Did you? And I'll ask Cletus to put in the chat on YouTube.com/at Vision Profiles. Is there anything that you got, Cletus, in terms of an order? So orders are set. Um, are you going to the store on Friday, or what's your
I
plan?
I think so. I've got a bunch of other stuff I've got to do Friday, so there's some juggling I've got to do.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, it'll be Saturday. Um,
So
I figure they'll
how?
have some devices that come in Friday, another range of devices that come in Saturday and Sunday. So,
Yeah. Cletus says not yet. He hasn't put an order in. So question for you then is, how do you feel? You'll walk into, how far is the Apple Store from you, for one thing?
um, it's like 40, 40 minutes about, but it's on my way to work. So
Oh,
if I go to work, I pass the store.
see, the thing I was going to say, 40 minutes is about the distance you need to make a commitment. It's sort of like if I drive 40 minutes and go to a store, which is what I have to do, and it's not in the direction
Ah,
anywhere near where I normally go. I've already committed as soon as I've gotten in the car. Uh,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like 10 minutes from work. So,
yeah,
and I have to go buy on my way in. So I don't even mind going to the store, looking, thinking. And if I got to come back the next day or, the next week, it's not that big a deal.
yeah. Cletus is telling us he's 6 hours away.
Ow, ouch.
Ouch.
Yeah, then you
That's
might
a
as well just order it,
Yeah, that's a
have
hotel.
it
I mean, that's
delivered.
a that's an overnight at a hotel. Okay, so that's what's new. Betas came out today, and we were just talking about
Betas?
how
You mean
well, not betas. OS
release?
2 rolled out today. I
Yeah.
have it under the section betas, but of
Oh,
course, the full operating system rolled out today for OS
everything.
2, everything. And you and I were chatting before the show that we were trying to figure out what was actually the final version, because I turned mine on Saturday and it started to load what I think was 2.0. Well, it said it was 2.0. It was no beta. It was no, final master. It said, here's your 2.0. And I thought, well, wow, maybe it identified me because I was running the developer beta. When it hooked
Oh,
up, it said,
maybe.
hey, let's just go dump him the 2.0. I put it on today and didn't get any kind of indication that there was a new software update for me. And I put it on late enough in the day that it would have indicated if it was. But yeah, apparently, as of Saturday night, I believe I've gotten 2.0 out of beta.
Build 22 and 320 is what I've got.
22N 320.
320.
Yeah.
So I'll wait and see what everybody else gets, but I think that that's the right version.
Well, I'll check on it after the show and see if that's what I'm running. So, news, news a little thin this week. I say that every week, but then sometimes we get into some stuff that's pretty deep. Um, GAZEploit. GAZEploit was was a vulnerability that was discovered in 1.3. When I saw it, it's like, well, all the more reason to be on 2.0, or the developer beta of 2.0. And if you're on 1.3, just go ahead and upgrade to 2.0. You'll get all sorts of benefits of that. But it was a security flaw. Some said that Apple should have um, announced it earlier when they knew about it, and they knew some about it, I think, as far back as June, or where it was the exploit was beginning to be identified. It's been fixed, and it's been fixed with updates. So it's kind of a story that's already been told and already been addressed. Um, it was an interesting hack, really. It had to do with personas and eye movement. And it was able to track when you were tapping things out on a keyboard with your eye movement. It was able to track and essentially capture the letters and or numbers that you were putting in. So the potential for the exploit to catch passwords or other sensitive information was of concern with this.
Yeah. Uh, Everyone's going to update.
Yeah.
So
So maybe a bit of a
it was an interesting bug, I guess, a different type of bug.
yeah, it was how they managed to set it up, that
Yeah.
and what it was capturing that was unique to this device, that makes it kind of a cool story. And I've got one, two, three, four, five. I've got 5 articles that will be in the show notes about it if you want to read more about GAZEploit. That's not an easy thing. I guess it's like exploit, but it's GAZEploit. Um, and it's just interesting, again, reading the story on. And they have some video showing you on one of the links. It shows you what you're doing and what the other folks can be getting from that, in the exploit. So take a look at it if you're interested. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. Part of it is like, okay, something's going wrong. It went wrong. It's gotten fixed, but let's jump on it anyways, because it makes for interesting copy. And then the
Yeah.
other question is how much of what you see and do, or happens with Apple, that you don't know, that they've caught things in the past. So this was kind of exposed and shared after the fact in a lot of ways. I think also as an encouragement to just move to 2.0, even though the patch had already taken care of the 1.3 version issue. Okay, so an article here about particular Orange County police wanting to use Apple Vision Pro to process surveillance data in real time. Of course, the image with it, this is on Apple Insider, is a picture of a RoboCop-like person wearing a Vision Pro headset. But all I can think of is, in Orange County, California, what kind of crimes are they dealing with? People breaking into plastic surgeons and stealing Botox. I just, but anyways, they're going to be apparently using this to collect data from various CTVs that are around, and they'll be able to look at the CTV and, as we know, open windows with data to be able to look at and identify um, issues that could be problematic, um, as part of the. Now they've spent $20,000 on Vision Pro headsets, all for the good of catching criminals. Um,
Yeah,
so a couple,
it
yeah,
it it seems a little strange to me. I I I guess maybe they can come up with a creative way to make it all work. Um, some of the questions we've already asked about how do you cycle between different users and, different lens inserts and, that kind of thing, make me sort of wonder how this is going to work. But more power to them if they can come up with some way to generate or create some new software, or if this is just an excuse for them to get enough headsets in so that they can, experience things.
them and
Um,
their guest. I mean, we can do guest
yeah,
accounts now
yeah.
in 2.0.
Yeah. Now I could almost see having the headsets to have libraries of footage, immersive footage from a bunch of different buildings so that you can kind of see what it all looks like and visualize it. That might make sense. There are other ways I could see using it. Not really sure about the whole real-time processing or if it even makes sense. Um, I,
Yeah,
I will be curious to hear what happens to this and you know it would be nice if they actually make this go through to have a follow-up what happened and did they use it.
yeah. The problem with this is one of these kinds of articles where people get excited about the article and you never hear what the outcome is. If it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of cops sitting around at home watching 3D movies, as an outcome of it. But we'll see. I would love to see what the follow-up is on this. And it could be that they have to justify this use and this purchase through, through the county that they're in. And as a result, they might have to show justification for it. I don't know if we'll ever hear that story.
Well, there was a lot in there about the hardware. I
Hmm.
didn't you know to make that work, I would expect you need a developer and some software coding and some other stuff, and I'm not sure I saw enough in there for that. But
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
start.
And, they mentioned in there that one of the concerns was the weight of the headset. And of course, Apple assured them that they'll be coming out with a lighter version in the future. So we'll see where that takes us. Next couple articles are on less expensive lenses. That article has kind of cropped up again. Apple Insider has an article on it. Apple may cut future Apple Vision Pro cost with far cheaper displays. And Apple looks for less expensive displays out of Mac Daily News.
Yeah,
So,
I guess I'm kind of on the if it's an Apple Vision, yeah, that might make sense. I don't see them taking an Apple Vision Pro and slapping cheaper displays into it.
yeah. So you mean so it doesn't have the Pro moniker on it? It's just an Apple Vision.
Right. If they can do something to make it two-thirds the cost or half the cost of the Pro, then that would make a big difference.
I would bet the least they can get it down to is a third of the cost. I don't think they get it down to a half or two-thirds. You look quizzical.
Yeah, I think I'm calculating the numbers going the other way.
Oh, okay. So
I
we
was
both are
thinking,
in agreement.
30% off, maybe approaching 50% discount from the
Yeah,
cost. Yeah,
right.
it's never going to go lower than that. That I don't,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So I think
Yeah,
I'm agreeing, just kind of in different words.
different directions.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple articles on that. You can take a look at it. I saw an article that was that I didn't put in because I think it was an old article where someone had done the cut up and breakdown of all the parts, and they talked about how this is what the true cost of the Vision Pro is based on the parts. It was still expensive, but it was the R&D and the assembly and all of that that goes into the cost of the device, not just the hardware. So they'll reduce the cost of the hardware eventually, and they'll also reduce the cost. The R&D will pay back for itself after a while, and the assembly will also reduce as they get better at putting these things together. So another article, as a person who flies, I was curious about this. This came out of Upload, and it was an editorial in industry analysis. Why Starlink on flights will be a game changer for headsets like MetaQuest and Apple Vision. Um, and I think the idea here is that it'll turn it into a workable onboard device versus a sort of dead terminal movies that you can watch. That the internet will be strong enough to allow you to stream and also do work. They talk about it's possible on flights today because of Disney and Prime Video, those kinds of things. But they're really talking about it's streaming and being able to have that built in. Seems also like an article about an opportunity for them to remind us that they need to make cheaper headsets.
Well, it's also kind of a commentary on Netflix not allowing
Yeah.
you to pre-download the movie. Because
Yeah,
if you
this is
can
going to,
download content, then it doesn't matter.
yeah. So if United Airlines, I fly a United a lot because I come out of the Cleveland airport, and that's one of the larger hubs there for is United is at. They're going to install SpaceX Starlink internet service on all of its aircraft to deliver free high-speed, low-latency Wi-Fi for all its passengers starting in late 2025. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know if they're going to install it on the puddle jumpers that I'm on, but I do some cross-continental flights with United on some trips. So it'll be interesting, but free. It wasn't until I read it this time. Have you ever done or tried to do internet on
Hmm.
an airplane?
Yeah, I've been pretty happy with what Delta has, and
Yeah,
I haven't gotten charged for that either.
yeah.
It's there
There
and it's
used to,
been pretty good. Sometimes you're unlucky and it's slow, but
yeah, there used to be like a Boingo or something like that. Some of these
yeah.
services that were you could purchase on the plane, and it was just a sieve of your money coming out of your pocket and flowing to them. And it's like, oh, can I get along with it? Well, I could get some work done if I could do this. Da, da, da. But the word here is free high speed, low latency Wi-Fi for all its passengers, not just the folks up in
Which is good if they can pull it off. And it's probably, few enough passengers that it wouldn't overload the connection.
mhm.
Because I keep thinking that cruises should really figure out a way to have enough of an internet connection that you can actually connect and do anything. And I don't think they have solved that.
Yeah. I'm one of those persons who will never go on a cruise, so I'm content with not having to deal with a Wi-Fi issue. Although I spent some time in northern Wisconsin, as you know, and had absolutely horrible Wi-Fi and tried to get some work done, tried to do tried to do a podcast recording up there with little or no luck. Next article is in the bid to usher in spatial computing, Meta and Apple turn their attention to VR's biggest enemy, comfort. So we're back to the comfort thing again. Um, this comes out of Phone Arena and off their site.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this seems to keep coming back to, well, if you just release all of this stuff in glasses, then it'll be comfortable. Um, I, I think it's good that it keeps coming back to comfort, and both with headsets and something lighter, because ultimately there will be something.
Yeah,
But
I haven't,
yeah,
and they talk about swapping out straps from the Vision Pro. One of the things they don't talk about are these third party pieces that you can put on. And frankly, I haven't been impressed with those. They haven't worked for me. Not that I feel that much discomfort either using the solo loop or the paired loop that comes with Vision Pro. And I switch between them. I'm now on the
yeah.
solo knit loop. I'm back on that, and that's working fine. Um, but yeah, they talk about comfort, but they don't talk about solutions in this.
Well, and I think it's always good to remind people that if is truly uncomfortable or you can only wear it for a really short time, that possibly the light shield is wrong. And going back into an Apple store and having them check again and maybe swap out components, especially for new buyers, is potentially worth it.
Dare I say it, I don't need to drop another $200. But when I'm going into the store to pick up the phone, I've always been curious whether or not my light shield is really right. There are some leaks in it, and it feels like it's pressed pretty hard across the top of my brow, whereas it's not resting very much. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get a fitting and see if the numbers are still the numbers that I had, and I should just forget about it and deal with it. But I'd be curious to see if there is a better fit for me. I have a couple of different light shields. One definitely it was a mistake in purchasing, and the other one is the one that I use primarily all the time. I have the W plus pad on it, and I also have the
Mhm.
standard normal pad. It's weird. The W plus, I still come up with my eyes are too close to the lenses.
Hmm.
Even and then says you might want to try the W plus pad. Well, I had the W plus pad on it, so I
And that's a
might take
light
them on
shield.
another fitting and see if
What
I can.
if you
Uh,
have a light shield that for sure doesn't work, bring it
yeah,
with you. Because
yeah,
if it turns out that there's an alternate light shield, they can trade in the old one for a replacement. And then you
yeah,
might not have to spend the $200.
yeah. Um, yeah, I'll do that. So it's an article worth looking at. It's more a call to arms around comfort than it is anything else in terms of the information on how they're going to do that. And again, I was really surprised they didn't mention any of the third party options for creating comfort in the headset. This video I found going through Twitter.
Hmm.
I'm not a Twitter user anymore, and I closed my account. But I found this that had come out, and it's in uh, the link that we have is a YouTube video of it. Um, and it's a World War II simulation, and from what I can tell, it's a simulation that looks like landing on the beaches in Normandy.
Huh.
It's not as crazy as that, but I mean, the whole thing is lined up like a Normandy landing. You
Okay.
see the point of view of the boat where the front comes down and hits the beach and those large spike-like areas. And then you can turn to the left, or the video turns to the left, and you can
Hmm.
see men, coming across the beach, or soldiers coming across the beach. Interesting combination of, from what I've heard about this, it's an interesting combination of original source video and then a video that was created and mashed together for this environmental immersion experience of storming the beaches.
Hmm.
Um,
Sounds very interesting.
a Under competition, a rather long article about everything to expect. This is an Engadget article. Everything to expect at Meta Connect 2024, AR, AI, and the cheapest Quest 3S. So apparently they're doing some sort of conference, or Meta Connect 2024, which kicks off virtually on September 25th and runs for 2 days. Hey, maybe we should check that out. And they're talking about Orion AR glasses, and it gives you it's unlike the Quest 3, which fully consumes your vision and uses cameras to show you a low quality view of the world. Orion could help you see the real world like a normal pair of glasses, but like Magic Leap and Microsoft's uh, HoloLens before it, Meta's glasses could layer holographic imagery on top of your reality. The key difference is, of course, it appears to be far less cumbersome than the Meta 3, and
Hmm.
by definition, also the Apple. And they're talking more about glasses. And then there's a link to a leaked Meta roadmap. The company plans to release a new pair of Ray-Ban smart glasses, because I think the ones they released currently are so pathetic. Um,
Yeah.
you know, Google Glass did better things 8 years ago than what Meta is proposing with their relationship with Ray-Ban. Um, and they're going to release a new pair of Ray-Ban smart glasses next year, which would add a small built-in screen alongside its existing camera, speaker, and microphone. So that sounds a lot like Google Glass in terms of that small screen that has images that come up and text that can come up, but you still have, outside of that, you still have, and through it, you still have your whole field of vision. Have you ever tried on a Google Glass at all? Oh,
I saw them when they came out. I didn't ever go
man,
for
I wish mine still worked, because next time we would have gotten together.
to try one.
It's an interesting device. It was an interesting device. So they're looking at a cheaper Quest 3 variant, which could go down to $300, which was its original price point, and it creeped up $100 each time, each release. So it's a long article with a lot of embedded links in it. If you're interested in what Meta has done and what they're planning on doing in relationship to what Apple might do, it's a good article, and it's also in the show notes. Okay, apps. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to play with any of these or seen these, Eric, or if you have ones to add.
No, I had
Uh,
a couple to add.
well, maybe we save them for next show, just because we've got three already. with this puzzle script. Um, Interesting. From what I can tell, it's free. I don't know. I might have bought it and didn't touch it, thinking I'd talk about it tonight, and then went in and played with it today and opened right up. It's a little bit of a learning curve. There's a training to it to explain you what these uh, polycubed structures and what the numbers mean. So you'll get a series of cubes like a busted up Rubik's cube with numbers on
Yeah.
them, but they represent how many cubes go beyond that. So you peel
Um,
away the pieces of it to
hmm,
get the final deco object, they call it. And I
yeah.
started playing with it once I figured out and it took me to the training. Frankly, the training is good, it's quick, and then you get the concept right away, the things that you can do, and then you can start playing without any trouble. A good three-dimensional puzzle game, in the
Hmm.
sense that you can move that puzzle around or that object around while you're making decisions on based on the numbers on it, which cubes you need to remove and which cubes you need to keep. Um, Financial Times Money Machine. Did you see this at all?
I looked at the video of it. I haven't had a chance to load it, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
looks really kind of cool. So
yeah.
I'm
It's
looking forward to
cool.
trying it.
I will be honest with you. I loaded it, and it's free, and it's Financial Times. It's based on a computer that economist Bill Phillips created in 1949, which was a computer that represented the economy by using water. And you would push levers, and water would go from one area to the other. Um, this is can only be done in Vision Pro. I mean, I like the fact that we're getting some apps that are
Yeah.
only Vision Pro apps. And I think that's true with Puzzle Script, and I think also Zen Garden, the other one I'll talk about. But it's big. I mean, you first thing you do is it asks you where do you want to put this thing in your living room, and it gives you a textured grid of your area, and you move the thing around until you can drop it down. But once you start it, um, it will give you a little history of it, which is good. So you understand it. And part of the history is showing you how to make the thing work.
Hmm.
And once you've got that, then you can start really doing what they call free play. There's an option for free
Uh,
play with it, that will allow you to kind of shift levers and try different things to see how it goes. As they say, it's economics as you've never experienced it. Um, and I think a really um, creative use of Vision Pro. The last one I wanted to talk about was Zen Focus Garden. I'm into the Zen stuff with this trip. There's all sorts of Zen apps that are coming up now. Um, and Zen Focus Garden, it gives you the option of just doing it on your tabletop or creating a whole immersive environment.
hmm.
So what you're getting is a grid
Okay.
that can be on your tabletop or can be displayed as in a full environment, like you're out. And when I went to the full immersive environment, it was like there was rolling hills around this little flat plot that I had, which was my Zen garden. Well, not a little flat plot; it was a big plot. And you could go stand on the balcony and look over the plot. And it's a gamification of relaxation.
Hmm.
So it wants you to sit still for 5 minutes, and then it'll open up one of the squares. It's actually a 7 by 7 grid. So you imagine there's 40 minutes of that,
Okay.
or 40. Well, it's not 49 minutes because I sat through one and it opened it up. And then you can get points or money. virtual money. You can get
Yeah.
karma points or you can get virtual money. And the money can be used if you meditate, you can cash in and get money. And then you can use the money to plant certain objects in your Zen garden.
Hmm.
So I did 5 minutes. It's like, okay, so I do 49 5 minutes. Well, the second time they wanted me to sit there for 25 minutes. So it's gamifying Zen meditation and the Zen garden, but it's also increasing it's also increasing your stillness or what's expected of you in terms of stillness for this.
Um,
So when it went into 25, it's like, no, I got to go talk to Eric. So I shut it down. And it's
Very,
free from what I can
ah,
tell. And it's a fun little animation.
very cool.
Oh, you put in spatial escape room. Talk about that.
So I hit this one. It was a link in Mastodon, is how I came across it. And it's a $6 app. And when you start up the app, it drops you inside a phone booth.
Oh,
And
I
then
gotta do this. I
you have
gotta
to get
do
out.
this.
It is awesome. It's I- I'm not really an escape room person, but it kept me occupied sitting in my chair over lunch
Oh man.
while I was trying to figure out how to get. Now there's like a couple different sets of clues you can get, and I had one point where I realized I maybe should have done it in a different way when I was standing on top of my rolling desk chair trying to ring a bell at the top of the phone booth, leaning against the side of the phone booth when I realized that's not a real wall. And it was not a stable way to be up there waving my hand. I was just glad nobody came into the office. Um, but
Wow.
it was nice. So I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about it if you go through and do some playing.
I will go ahead and do this because I kind of like escape rooms. I do enjoy them with other people. Um, and have you ever tried this app on it's on iPhone and iPad. It's called
Hmm.
The Room.
No.
It's a game. You need to look at that because it's
Okay.
essentially a series of puzzle boxes. And the first one was really well received, and then they did a second one, and those kind of little puzzle box, and this is what this looks like, a bit of a puzzle box where you're
Yeah.
looking for patterns on the cube. You're maybe getting some hints along the way to help you with it. Yeah, look for I think it's called The Room.
Okay.
And you can search it. Um, I I played it on iPhone, but I think it's also available on iPad.
Hmm.
But this looks a lot like it. I've got to
Yeah.
try this out.
Well, and the thing I liked about it is you're in a phone booth, but the way they built the phone booth, you can see through to your surrounding room. So
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like you're in a enclosed box. You don't get that pressure of being trapped
yeah.
inside, so you don't have that pressure. You just have the, okay, how do I solve the puzzle? So
Yeah,
it's,
so they're not, they want to sell this to claustrophobes,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And so they need to have the pass through for the
Yeah.
claustrophobes.
But you could turn on a virtual environment to get it more enclosed if you wanted that, a
Yeah.
virtual night environment. So that was neat. And then the last note I had is it looked like Encounter Dinosaurs has been tweaked slightly. And I was
Hmm.
gonna see, have you maybe try watching it again and see if the dinosaur seemed nicer.
Okay.
Like if you reach out and you get like a couple opportunities to pet the dinosaur, and there's one point where it kind of opens its mouth and almost snaps at you, but it's slower. It's not as threatening. And then there's and then it comes back through, and when the other dinosaur comes through, the the first dinosaur is there, kind of protects you from the other dinosaur, which is it's like it seemed like it was almost the same demo, but just subtly adjusted so it felt more comfortable and less scary.
I wonder if it was adjusted, if it also makes for a better demo in store for people who have never put this thing on. Because that dinosaur one, as it was an oh wow and a little bit of a pullback
A little
experience
bit
for
of
folks.
let me get away a
Yeah,
little.
yeah. And so it doesn't have to be a thrill ride to kind of demonstrate the effectiveness of it. So yeah, I'll tell you what, I will look at Spatial Escape Room and Encounter Dinosaur.
I'll go look
Um,
at the Zen Garden because I'm really curious now.
yeah, and take a look at The Room,
Oh,
that
yes.
app, and we'll come back next show and talk about them and maybe some other apps that have come out that we found. Um, but all of these links will be in the show notes of the podcast and also the show notes of the video broadcast on YouTube. So don't feel shy about doing that, um, and finding them there. Um, so, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing with Chuck Joyner. We've just cut another Vision Pro Focus, which is kind of a mashup between Chuck Joyner joining us to talk about larger concepts around Vision Pro and the show that will come out on Mac Voices and also the podcast that will come out. Same audio on both. The podcast that will come out um, is going to be a two-parter because we wound up talking for about an hour and 30 minutes on entertainment is the topic and how the device is used for entertainment. So we'll do the first release of the podcast sometime this week. I think Chuck's going to do, he said Tuesday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday for the two parts. And we're also going to include links to the apps that we talk about. Um, and I've got to get those to Chuck. Um, and so you'll be able to get those in either location in terms of the apps because we run through some apps. Some of them we don't remember the names of. So go
Yeah.
to the notes for information on those apps. But it really is kind of nice to have Chuck doing this interview with us because he is such a good interviewer. And he asks questions that we take for granted because we use the device all the time. And so that's helpful for us to rethink about those things like what is entertainment like? What is it really differently like in the Vision Pro? Yeah, you can do 3D movies, but what's the experience? How is it absorbed differently as a person? Um, I don't know. Anything else? Any you want to add to that?
No, that actually covers it pretty well. Um, yeah, definitely it's having somebody that isn't using a Vision Pro yet, because I
Yeah.
think he'll get there.
Oh yeah, I think he's closer than he wants to think. Yeah.
It's kind of helpful.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, as you're right, I find I accidentally make assumptions
Yeah.
that everybody has thought of this. So yeah, it's good. Gives
So
us a nice framework.
look for Vision Pro Focus, the audio versions of it, in our stream, and you can go to Mac Voices with Chuck Joyner and find the video portions of that. And I think he'll probably even put the audio portions out too, at some point with his podcast. So that's it for this week. Wow. I've had such a crazy weekend that I was really looking forward to just getting back to some great old podcasting and video work. So glad to have you here, Eric, and glad that you're along with us. Um, And thank everybody for tuning in. Cletus wants to know, when is Chuck going to buy one? I don't know. That's between Chuck and his God, and his pocketbook. Um, and we will probably have Dave Ginsburg on. I'm giving him time because he got one a couple of weeks ago, and his wife got it for him as a gift. And my comment to Dave was, "Is your wife taking on any more husbands?" Because I like those kind of gifts. Um, so yeah, we'll get Dave on because he's a new user, and I'm curious to see what he has to say as a new user. As Cletus was on at one time, we had Cletus on, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and for anyone who was reluctant to run the beta, upgrade as soon as possible to 2.0 because it makes a massively huge difference in the kind of the environment experience.
Yeah. And Dave was talking about he was having trouble getting the control panel in the 2.0. And I think what it is, I need to text him. I think what it is, if you put your two fingers up and you hold them upwards and you keep them apart, the little button appears for home. And a lot of people think, okay, that does it now. That the motion for getting the control panel is to just put your hands down and with the separation, and it'll recognize it. But it really is a combination of both.
Yeah.
And I think what he's and I made that mistake too. I kept going like this, like, come on, why isn't this working? And then I realized it was a turn that brought it up.
Do the first motion to get the dot, and then just rotate your wrist until you get the time, and then click.
Yeah. And then you're in. So we'll get Dave on and find out his success with that at some point. Thanks for tuning in. We'd love to hear from our listeners. If you want to be on as a user, just get in touch with us, and we'll put you on as a third panel member. Daniel Burkholder has been with us a couple of times. He's about every other show, and we appreciate having guests on. Even when Daniel's on, we can take more people on. That's very cool. Just to talk about these topics as it goes with Apple Vision Pro. If you have any ideas or want to join an episode, email us at visionprofilespodcast@gmail.com. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. You can learn more about us and the Vision Profile podcast at our website, visionprofiles.net. And also, all of our available podcasts, probably the best place to start is the podtalk.net. Spread the word to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.